The applause hit harder than any slap. Not because it was loud, but because it was effortless, natural, as if 500 people had rehearsed laughing at him for years, just waiting for his stepdaughter to deliver the punchline. To the checkbook who paid for all this, thanks for nothing else. That was her voice, her smile, her tone, half proud, half mocking. The kind of thing teenagers say when they think they're clever and untouchable. The kind of sentence you only speak out loud when you're absolutely certain the person you're mocking won't respond. And she was right. He didn't. He just stood up, slowly, like the years had tripled in weight, and walked down the aisle with every eye avoiding his. Not because they didn't see him, but because they did. And they didn't want to know what it looked like to be that man. The man who paid, and paid, and paid, and in the end, wasn't even worth a proper insult. Just a line and a punchline. Outside, the wind was colder than expected. Spring in name only. The parking lot was 2 blocks away, and he didn't mind. Every step felt like shaking loose another memory. Ballet lessons he drove her to in the snow, braces he'd fought insurance over, the iPad she needed for school, the time he rewired the garage so she could start her robotics project. All of it paid for. All of it forgotten. Or worse, rebranded as obligation. A couple passed him, chatting about the speech. That was savage, one of them said. The other snorted. That old guy looked like he'd melt into the sidewalk. He didn't say a word, just unlocked the car, sat behind the wheel, and stared at his hands. They were trembling, not from anger, but from the weight of holding back everything he wanted to say. Everything he could have said. You want to know the sickest part? He wasn't even angry at her. Not yet. Not entirely. He was angry at himself. For being surprised. Because somewhere, deep down, he'd known. Known this moment was coming. Known what she thought of him. Known how his wife had started referring to him less as my husband, and more as, you know, John. Known that the dinners had turned quieter. That she stopped waiting up for him. That the stepdaughter, the same one who used to leave him sticky notes that said, thanks for lunch, hadn't said thank you in 2 years. He knew. But knowing and seeing it land like a joke told into a microphone, that's a different beast entirely. This part is hard to share. But if you're listening, if you've ever had that kind of silence in your house, the kind where you pay the mortgage and still feel like a guest in your own home, do me one favor. Tap subscribe. Not just because it helps the team, but because some of us only get to tell our story this way. Now, back to the gymnasium stage. When she said, my mom's real partner, everyone looked at a man named Thomas. He was seated next to the mother, tall, tanned, the kind of guy who wears cologne you can smell from 6 feet away. He gave a modest wave when the crowd turned. He didn't look uncomfortable. He looked proud. That was the first time it clicked. Thomas, the guy who used to be our realtor. The guy who somehow always showed up when he was working late. Who joined them for dinners, since he was in the neighborhood. Who offered investment advice to his stepdaughter. Who once gifted her a necklace and claimed it was from a business contact. Thomas, who winked at her when she said the line about the man who believed in me. Thomas, who sat next to his wife, his actual wife, and whispered something that made her laugh. There's a moment, right before full betrayal lands, where your brain slows everything down, like a computer buffering. He sat in his car watching that moment play again and again. Her speech, the applause, the glance between Thomas and his wife. And it hit him not like a bomb, but like a quiet, calculated execution. They'd talked about that line, rehearsed it, smiled about it. They planned it. The speech hadn't been brave. It had been sanctioned, authorized, endorsed by the very person he trusted most in that room. And the girl, the young woman, he'd raised since she was 9, she'd stood up there, in front of a crowd, and decided he didn't even deserve to be insulted directly. He was just the checkbook. He didn't remember driving home. Just that, at some point, he pulled into the garage and sat there until the garage light went out. Inside, the house was quiet. His wife hadn't come home yet. Probably off to debrief with her sister and Thomas. Probably celebrating how well the speech went. He went to the den, poured a glass of scotch, opened his laptop. There it was, already viral. A 10-second clip titled, Savage Graduation Speech Leaves Room Gasping. He watched it. Again. And again. And just before midnight, he logged into an email account he hadn't used in years. The one linked to a different name. The one no one. Not his wife. Not his stepdaughter. Not even Thomas knew existed. He drafted a message, attached a file, and typed 3 words into the subject line. For board review. Then he hit send. It started with a toast. Not the champagne kind. The bread kind. Slightly burned, just the way his stepdaughter used to like it when she was little. He'd made dinner that night. Grilled salmon, roasted asparagus, mashed potatoes. set the table with cloth napkins, candles, her favorite mango soda in the fridge. A quiet, early celebration because she'd just been shortlisted for the Hudson Inside internship. The big one. Thousands apply. Less than 50 get invited. He was proud. Not in the loud, overbearing way. Just quietly proud. The kind that shows up in the careful placement of silverware, in checking the fish twice so it didn't dry out, in printing out the Hudson brochure and slipping it next to her plate like a lucky charm. He didn't say much during dinner. Just smiled, nodded, listened. Then, about halfway through the meal, he cleared his throat and said, "Tuition's going to bump a little next year. With housing off campus and all. But don't worry, I've got it covered. Everything's already moving through the account." His stepdaughter froze, fork halfway to her mouth. She didn't look at him, just looked at her mom, then back at her plate. I think someone else should help this time." Silence. The kind that lingers like smoke in a closed room. His wife chuckled, the kind of laugh that says, "Don't make a scene." "She's just overwhelmed," she said quickly. "So much happening this week. Don't take it personally." He nodded, pretending to understand. Pretending it didn't stick somewhere under his ribs. Pretending it wasn't the first time in years she didn't smile when he offered help. After dinner, he did the dishes while they disappeared onto the back porch. He could hear them through the screen door. Not the words at first, just laughter. Then the words came anyway. "Mom, he's just the wallet. He doesn't get it." Another wave of laughter. His wife's this time. Lower. Warmer. He stood there, water running over his hands, glass halfway washed, staring at the silverware drawer. And he felt that specific kind of pain that doesn't break you, but reclassifies you. Turns you from a person into a utility. He didn't say anything. Just finished the dishes, turned off the lights, and went upstairs. Lay in bed, awake. Listening as the porch laughter faded into silence, then into hushed conversation, then into nothing. The next morning, she kissed him on the cheek and said, "Thanks for dinner last night, by the way." He nodded. She was already halfway to the door. "You're welcome," he said. She was gone before he finished the second word. That weekend, Thomas showed up again. Uninvited, as usual. Big grin, designer loafers, bringing some leftover wine from the tasting event. His wife lit up when she saw him. His stepdaughter hugged him like family. Thomas handed her a sleek little envelope. "For the girl with the big brain," he said. Inside, a voucher for a spa day and a gift card to some overpriced smoothie place she liked. "Oh my God," she beamed. "You didn't have to." Thomas winked. "You deserve it." She didn't even look in her stepfather's direction. Later, while they were all in the living room laughing at something on his wife's tablet, he quietly walked upstairs, opened the old filing cabinet in his home office, pulled out the ledger, the one with every tuition invoice, every housing deposit, every advance paid textbook list. The numbers stared back at him. $87,000 in 3 years. And apparently, that made him the wallet. He closed the drawer, locked it. That night, he lay in bed again, his wife beside him, scrolling on her phone. "You okay?" she asked, eyes still on the screen. "Yeah," he said, but she didn't look, didn't press, just murmured, "Good," and kept scrolling. He rolled onto his side, staring at the wall, thinking of something the chairman once told him, years ago, back when the company was still taking shape. If they only see the money disappear, let them feel the absence of you, not the absence of your cash. He'd laughed at the time. Now he wasn't laughing. Now it felt like prophecy. They didn't know it yet, but something had started to shift. Not out of spite, out of necessity. Because when your presence becomes invisible, the only power left is your absence. The email arrived while he was searching for a charger in the junk drawer. Subject line, "Final headcount, graduation reserved seating." He almost ignored it. He wasn't in charge of guests, never had been. But something about the CC list caught his eye. He wasn't on it. He opened the thread, scrolled. Every name accounted for. His wife, her sister and husband, even Thomas. Plus Thomas's parents, apparently flying in from Santa Barbara, just to be part of this special day. There was a little note from the event planner asking if they needed kosher meals for Mr. Langford and his wife. Langford, Thomas's last name. He stared at that screen for a full minute. Then he asked, in the most casual tone he could manage, "Hey, Han, who submitted the guest list?" She was at the kitchen island, fussing with the centerpiece for the dinner party they were throwing that Friday. She said, distracted. "The seating. For the ceremony. I didn't see my name." She blinked, paused with a small flower pin in hand, then smiled. "Oh God, really? That must have been a mistake. I'll forward it right now." He waited. She didn't move. He opened the fridge. "No worries," he said. "I'll figure it out." She went back to the flowers like nothing had happened. The forwarded email never came. 2 days later, he drove himself to the venue. Left early, parked 3 blocks away because all the reserved spots had names. His name wasn't among them. He walked, feeling the heat rising through his pressed dress shoes, sun glaring off the asphalt, tie a little too tight. No one met him at the entrance. No ushers knew who he was. He found his own seat. 3rd row, far enough back not to make a scene, close enough to hear every syllable of what would come next. At the time, he told himself it didn't matter. Maybe they just messed up. Maybe no one meant anything by it. But after the speech, after the checkbook, who paid for all this? After 500 people clapped like he was a punchline in a high school roast, that's when it clicked. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was permission. They had carved him out of the picture before the frame was even bought. They'd decided who mattered, who didn't, who was allowed a seat, who was a silent financier. He wasn't on the guest list because he wasn't meant to be on it. He was a logistical nuisance, a technicality, a sponsor, nothing more. Someone whose presence might have made the narrative a little too complicated. After all, it's hard to crown Thomas the real partner with the man who built your life sitting 2 rows away. The betrayal wasn't just in the words. It was in the planning. And he remembered something small, but sharp. 2 weeks before the ceremony, his wife had taken a call on speaker. A short one. "Don't worry about him," she had said. "He'll be there, but he won't be there, if you know what I mean." At the time, he'd assumed it was about him being bad with social events. Introverted. Quiet. Now, it felt like something darker. Something premeditated. That night, after the graduation, he sat at the kitchen table. The lights were still off. No one else home. The envelope from the ceremony lay open beside him. Inside was a copy of the program, neatly folded. On the back, sponsors were listed. Donors. With special thanks to our elite patrons. There it was, J. Randall Foundation, Platinum Legacy Benefactor. His own money. His own quiet empire. Buried in a back page, 2 lines above the florist. No mention of him. No name. No nod. Just the foundation. Clean. Corporate. Anonymous. Exactly how he'd set it up until now. He walked to the study, flipped on the old green lamp, and opened the drawer where he kept the backup hard drive. He hadn't touched it in years. The metal was cold. He plugged it in, watched it spin up. Inside were emails, contracts, archived videos, board records, proof. Every dollar. Every connection. Every recommendation letter he'd written under a pseudonym for community outreach. Every contact he'd pulled strings with to make his stepdaughter's resume sparkle. Even the one that got her on the Hudson shortlist. He backed it all up again. Uploaded it to a private cloud folder. Then he opened a blank document. Title, Addendum, Termination of Sponsorships. Below that, he began typing names. He typed slowly, carefully. No anger in his fingers. Just clarity. This wasn't about revenge. Not yet. This was about erasure. They deleted him from an invitation. He'd return the favor. But unlike them, he wouldn't just erase a seat at a ceremony. He'd erase the ladder they climbed. The house was too quiet. That awful kind of quiet where you can hear the hum of the refrigerator, the distant tick of a baseboard heating pipe, the soft shudder of an HVAC system kicking on even though it's not needed. He sat at the dining room table, dinner plate untouched. The roast had gone cold an hour ago. His wife still wasn't home. Probably out celebrating. On his laptop screen, one email sat open. Subject, Board Slate Confirmation, HI Holdings, Q3 Review. His name wasn't in it. Not the one they knew him by. But the pseudonym he used to build the company from scratch was right there. Tucked into the footer. Founder, Advisory Chair Emeritus. He hadn't spoken to most of the board in years. He didn't attend the meetings anymore, not in person. He preferred the silence of being a ghost in the machine. A man who funded ideas, pulled strings when it mattered, signed documents under initials that meant something only to those who had reason to care. The public didn't know him. Hell, even his own wife didn't know the full scope of what he did. She thought he'd retired years ago. Said he tinkered with investments and sat on a few legacy boards for fun. That was the point. He never wanted to be a brand. Just the hand behind the curtain, making sure the right people moved in the right directions. And that's exactly how his stepdaughter had ended up at the top of the Hudson Insight Scholarship list. Through a quiet pull, a gentle suggestion, a recommendation letter sent from a donor liaison address that was, in reality, just him typing at 3 a.m. after one too many cups of coffee. He had made her stand out. And in return, she stood on a stage, called him a checkbook, and gave the credit to a man who sells luxury condos and wears velvet loafers without socks. He clicked over to another tab, an internal portal that tracked funded internships and development programs. There it was, Her name, top of the list. The letter approving her placement. Approved by the board. At his request, he opened the video again. Just 10 seconds. To the checkbook who paid for all this. Thanks for nothing else. Uploaded by a classmate, clipped and captioned. It had already crossed 70,000 views. The comments were full of teenagers cheering her on. Queen energy. LOL, she's so real for this. Imagine getting roasted at a graduation. And then, deep in the thread. Wait, wasn't she the one who got the Hudson Founders Circle internship? Another comment. Yikes, bad look if they see this. And another. They will see this. Trust. His mouse hovered over the video. Pause. Rewind. Play. Again. He should have felt rage. But what crept in wasn't anger. It was a strange, methodical stillness. He hadn't built HI Holdings by yelling. He built it by seeing 5 moves ahead. By investing in people who had no idea they were being tested. By learning when to disappear, and when to make his presence felt so subtly it couldn't be traced. His stepdaughter had never failed a class. But she'd just failed a test he didn't even know he was giving. He closed the tab, opened his encrypted contact list, clicked on a name labeled Only Chairman, typed a short message. Would like to schedule a brief call. Personal matter. Within 5 minutes, the reply came, of course. Immediate availability, if urgent. He clicked join. The screen flickered. Then came the familiar voice, older now, but still sharp. Well, look who's alive. He didn't waste time. You saw it. The clip? Yes. Made the rounds. I didn't put 2 and 2 together until I checked the internship logs. That's your kid. Stepkid, he corrected. A pause. You want us to kill the offer? No, he said. Not yet. The chairman leaned back in his seat. Then why the call? I want one thing. Not an overreaction. Not a scandal. Just a correction. He dictated the wording carefully. No threats. No anger. Just a line that would get passed along quietly, logged formally, whispered through proper channels. The chairman nodded slowly. You know, most people in your position would have shown up with lawyers and a PR crisis firm. I'm not most people, he said. And I didn't build my name so it could be dragged through teenage applause. You sure about this? The chairman asked. Because if the founder asks, the board listens. And when the board listens, things shift. I'm sure. He ended the call, closed the laptop, and for the first time in weeks, he smiled. Not out of happiness, out of precision. He didn't want a scene. He wanted understanding. And sometimes, the only way to teach gratitude is to take everything away that made them feel untouchable. The call came at 7:11 the next morning, sharp. He was standing at the kitchen sink, stirring the sugar into his coffee with the same hand that had held the pen to sign her last tuition check. He hadn't slept much. Didn't need to. He'd been in this headspace before, decades ago, back when he was cutting deals in windowless conference rooms with men who never blinked. He answered before the second ring. The chairman didn't bother with pleasantries. Was that your stepdaughter? A quiet sip. Then, yes. Another pause. Well, I'll be candid. There's already buzz. 2 of our sponsors have flagged the video. Not because of her, but because of what it implies. Who it implies. She named no names. They don't care. The room knew who she meant. And now we do too. He stayed silent. You want us to handle this quietly? The chairman asked. He thought about that. The easy path. A quiet redaction. A note from HR. Maybe the internship gets delayed due to program restructuring. Some vague, polite corporate speak for being blacklisted without ever knowing why. But that wasn't enough. Not this time. No, he said, setting down the mug. But I do want one thing. I'm listening. He dictated the message slowly. 28 words. No exaggeration. No bitterness. No vengeance. Just a clear, surgical strike disguised as a line of protocol. When he finished, the chairman didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, you're sure? Yes. Because if the founder asks, the board listens. I built the board, he said. They can listen for 30 seconds. The call ended. He didn't slam the phone. He didn't pace the floor or gloat in the mirror. He just stood there, fingers wrapped around cooling ceramic, letting the hum of the refrigerator fill the space between his thoughts. Down the hallway, his wife was still asleep, or pretending to be. Her purse was still on the counter, open. He could see the receipt from last night's dinner tucked between a tube of lipstick and a neatly folded brochure for a downtown condo development. The name Thomas Langford was stamped across the header. He didn't look inside. He didn't need to. He walked to the study, opened his notebook. The real one. The one with no logins, no digital backups, no traceable records. Just pen on paper. He flipped past a dozen pages of business notes, old financial structuring drafts, a list of advisory contacts. Then he wrote a single name at the top of a fresh page, Claire E. removed. Below that, he made 3 notations. HI internship, withdrawn. Hudson letter of rec, retracted. Mentorship fund, redirected. Each line was followed by a date. Today's date. He put the pen down, walked outside to the backyard, sat on the deck chair she used to sprawl across when she was 12, reading comic books and pretending she'd start a clothing line someday. He used to sit next to her, bring out lemonade, ask about her drawings. She'd beam when he listened. Back then, she called him Jay, short for John, but also her code for my favorite guy. That version of her didn't survive high school. Maybe it wasn't her fault. Maybe her mother had chipped away at it slowly, until the version she saw wasn't a man, just a resource. He glanced up at the sun. It was blinding today, bright enough to cast sharp, clean shadows. He liked shadows. You could hide in them, or you could become them. He pulled out his phone again, sent one more message. This one not to the chairman, but to someone else entirely, an executive who owed him a favor. He typed, "If Claire E. applies anywhere in the next 90 days, I'd appreciate a flag on it." Quiet. No action needed yet. Just eyes. The response came within minutes. Understood. Flagging quietly. He sat back in the chair, phone face down on the table, and listened to the breeze move through the hedges. This wasn't about punishment. Not yet. It was about reminding people, his wife, her daughter, that man in the velvet loafers, that being quiet didn't mean being blind. That just because you forget who built the floor beneath you, doesn't mean the architect isn't still watching the cracks. She was brushing her hair when the call came in. That specific kind of brushing girls do when they know they're going somewhere worth being seen, slow, practiced, like a ritual. Her mom was in the hallway, already planning outfits for a networking brunch at the country club. Thomas was downstairs, apparently making cappuccinos like he lived there now. Her phone buzzed once, then again, then a third time, with the name, Hudson Insight, Kendra. She gasped. "Mom, it's them," she shouted, already tapping accept. "Hello? Hi, this is Claire." A woman's voice, polite but tight. "Hi Claire, this is Kendra from Hudson Insight. Do you have a moment?" Claire didn't sit. She stayed standing, one hand still holding the hairbrush like it might grant her luck. Yes, of course." There was a beat of silence. A second too long. "I'm calling about your summer internship placement. I'm sorry, but we'll be withdrawing the offer extended last month." The words hit like glass shattering on tile. Sharp, clean, instant. What?" She blinked, laughing awkwardly. "Sorry, that's got to be a mistake. I got the confirmation last week. You even sent the travel stipend email." "I know," Kendra said gently. "I'm really sorry. The board made the decision this morning. It's final." Claire's voice cracked. "Why?" Another pause. "I probably shouldn't be saying this, but someone on the board circulated a video. A clip from your graduation speech." Claire froze. "Oh, there was a request from the founder. Personally, he didn't want your name attached to the program anymore." She heard the words, but couldn't process them. "I didn't even mention Hudson in the speech." Kendra sounded sympathetic. "It wasn't about Hudson. It was about judgment. About character." "I'm sorry, Claire. This wasn't mine to decide." The line went quiet, and then it disconnected. She stood there for a full minute, holding the dead phone like it might start talking again. In the hallway, her mother peeked in, smiling. "Well, was that the placement call?" Claire didn't speak. Her face went pale. She slowly lowered the phone, set the brush down on the dresser, and turned. They took it back. "What?" "The internship. It's gone." Her mother stepped in. "What do you mean it's gone? What did they say?" Claire swallowed. "They saw the speech." It hit like a slap. "The speech?" her mother repeated. Claire nodded. "They said the founder asked for it. Personally." There was a strange moment then, like time had slowed. Her mother's jaw tensed, but her eyes flicked, calculating, like she was trying to remember what exactly had been said, how public it had gotten, whether Thomas had posted anything, whether any of it was traceable. And then she said it. "Well, maybe they're just old-fashioned. Too sensitive. It wasn't that bad." Everyone laughed. "Yeah," Claire muttered. Everyone laughed. But inside her chest, something twisted. Because now she remembered, there'd been no invitation for her stepfather. No introduction. No mention in the program. No thank you in the acknowledgments. Just that line, "To the checkbook who paid for all this. Thanks for nothing else." The exact words were playing again in her head, word for word. And now the weight of them felt different. They didn't just erase him from the moment. They'd branded her with it. Downstairs, Thomas was still humming. She could hear the hiss of the milk frother. She wanted to scream, or cry, or smash the cappuccino machine into the wall. Instead, She sat down, pulled up her email, typed in her Hudson login. It was already deactivated. She checked her alternate inbox. There was a system-generated message. Access revoked PR board request. HI Holdings internship platform. No apology. No explanation. Just removal. Clean. Total. Immediate. Her mother walked in with her phone pressed to her ear, already dialing. "I'm calling Thomas," she said. "He's got that connection through the foundation. Maybe he can." "Don't," Claire snapped. "Just don't." Her mom lowered the phone, stunned. Claire looked at her, eyes wide and wet and terrified. What if it wasn't a mistake? What if he planned it? Her mother hesitated. Plan what? What if he saw everything coming? And there it was, that moment of silence between two people who finally realized someone else had been playing chess while they were still drawing on the checkerboard. Because somewhere, quietly, methodically, her stepfather had started moving pieces. And now the board was changing. That night, the dining room looked like it was bracing for a storm. 2 plates set, forks perfectly aligned, a candle flickering awkwardly between them, its glow bouncing off untouched wine glasses. Claire sat stiff, arms folded, eyes darting to the hallway every few minutes. Her mother busied herself with rearranging a cloth napkin that didn't need rearranging. He didn't come home. No key in the door. No footsteps. No throat clearing from the foyer like he always did before stepping inside, as if announcing himself in his own house was still somehow a courtesy. Claire's phone buzzed at 7:46. A new message thread. "Claire, 1 message sent. Are you okay? Read." Never. Her mother tried next. Called twice. Both went straight to voicemail. No ring. Just the robotic. "The person you are trying to reach is unavailable." She tried to sound annoyed. He's being childish. He'll come back when he's ready to stop sulking. But the edge in her voice gave her away. She wasn't annoyed. She was scared. Claire got up, paced, sat back down. What if he's not coming back? Her mother waved it off. Don't be dramatic. But even she didn't believe that anymore. They both sat in that dim room, the silence slowly bleeding into the walls like water damage. Every tick of the antique clock in the hallway stretched the moment further. Time doesn't move the same way when you're waiting to be forgiven by someone who's done being a fool. Claire didn't sleep that night. She stayed curled on the couch with her laptop open, refreshing her email, rereading the Hudson rejection like the wording might change if she blinked enough times. At 6:12 a.m., she heard it. A soft SHFFD against the front door. She jumped up, opened it. No one there. But on the mat, an envelope. Cream-colored. Plain. No name. Just a single piece of tape keeping it sealed. She picked it up like it might explode. Inside, she found copies. Perfect, printed copies of every single tuition invoice from the past 4 years. Every semester. Every housing deposit. Every meal plan detail. Every petty late fee. And at the bottom of each, his name. Paid in full. At the back of the packet, a smaller receipt, one from a bookstore. A custom leather-bound planner, engraved. Claire E. Class of 2024. He'd bought it 6 months ago. The same week, she'd casually mentioned wanting one. She flipped it over. Attached to the last receipt was a yellow sticky note. His handwriting, neat and measured. Paid. No need to thank me. That was it. No anger. No guilt trip. No demand for acknowledgement. Just that. Claire's throat tightened. She sat on the floor, legs folding beneath her, eyes fixed on the sticky note like it was some kind of riddle only people who'd been loved too quietly could understand. She heard her mother shuffle into the room a minute later, still in a robe, eyes bleary. "What's that?" Claire held it up. Her mother took the folder, flipped through it quickly, lips pressed thin. Her expression never changed. Just this silent, restrained stillness, as if admitting any reaction might open a crack too wide to close. "He's trying to guilt us," she said flatly, setting it on the table. Claire didn't reply, because she finally understood. This wasn't about guilt. It was about finality. He wasn't asking for a thank you. He was declaring the debt closed. Financially. Emotionally. She wasn't waiting for his return anymore. She was sitting in the aftermath of someone who'd been erased so completely from their shared narrative that now, even his silence was louder than her own name. And for the first time, it scared her more than any shouted argument ever could. At first, Claire thought the damage was limited to Hudson Insight. 1 internship lost. Devastating. Yes, but not career-ending. Not yet. She still had backup applications out. Connections her mother swore Thomas could massage. Scholarships, grant programs, other firms hungry for fresh, polished candidates with shiny GPAs and prettier last names. But quietly, invisibly, the perimeter began to shrink. It started when she logged into her school's internship portal to update her status. Her profile was gone. Not suspended. Gone. As if she'd never uploaded anything at all. She emailed the campus coordinator. No response. She tried to log into the professional mentoring platform linked to her field, one she joined 2 semesters ago under special access, something her stepfather had once casually arranged just in case. Account disabled by administrator. She tried to reset her password. Email not recognized. The panic didn't hit all at once. It seeped in slowly, like water beneath a door, silent until you realized the whole carpet's soaked. Back at home, her mother sensed it too. She stopped pretending, stopped brushing things off. By day 2, she was pacing the kitchen like a caged executive. "This is absurd," she muttered, stabbing her phone screen. "It's just a stupid speech. These people have no sense of humor." Claire said nothing. Maybe someone flagged it out of context. Her mother tried. Maybe they didn't know who it was about. Claire finally looked up, her voice low, brittle. "They knew." Her mother paused. "Okay, then we fix it. You call him. You apologize. You tell him you didn't mean it." "I did mean it," Claire said. "At the time." "Then unmean it," her mother snapped. "He's not a vindictive man. You know that." Claire nodded. "That's the problem. Because vindictive people act out of emotion. Emotion cools. Forgiveness becomes a possibility. But what he was doing, this wasn't fire. This was ice. Across the city, in the hushed upper floor of a midtown office tower, the conversations were beginning to sound different. "I heard she made a speech," one executive muttered to another at a cocktail event. "The one mocking the founder? Yeah. Unbelievable. Right into a mic. A head shake. A quiet sip of bourbon. You don't bite the hand that signs your future." Another VP chimed in, lips thin. "You don't publicly humiliate the man who signs your recommendation letter." They all nodded. The room moved on. And Claire? Claire couldn't even get her onboarding email at her fallback internship to go through. She reached out to the recruiter. Left a message. Then another. The reply came 3 days later. Short. Mechanical. "We're reassessing our placement needs for the quarter. Thank you for your interest." No further explanation. Just that same soundless door closing in her face. One afternoon, in a moment of desperation, she tried to log into her LinkedIn account, just to see who'd viewed her profile. The login failed. Then her backup email got a message. "Unusual activity detected. Your account has been suspended pending review." She stared at the screen. Back at home, her mother was redialing his number again. Voicemail. Another attempt. Straight to voicemail. "Maybe he changed it," she said. Claire looked out the window. "Maybe we're blocked." Her mother's voice cracked. "He loved you." Claire flinched. "No," she said quietly. "He believed in me." "Same thing," her mom snapped. "No," Claire said again, firmer. "It's not. Love could be messy, emotional, conditional. Belief was clean, silent, absolute. And when it broke, it didn't yell. It disappeared." She walked back to her room, past the hallway photo wall. Family vacations, award nights, birthdays. Every frame where he appeared had slowly, over the past year, migrated further to the edge. Less centered, less recent. And now, looking at them, she realized he hadn't just disappeared. He had prepared to disappear. And no one saw it coming. Not her mother. Not Thomas. Not even her. Until it was too late, and his silence had become the loudest sound in their world. She waited outside his office for 20 minutes before the receptionist even acknowledged her. Not because she was invisible, but because she was no longer on the pre-approved access list. She'd been flagged. Twice. Even now, the receptionist only let her sit after confirming, with a discreet call, that she may wait, but only in the outer lobby. Claire didn't argue. She just sat there in yesterday's jeans and a plain sweatshirt, the one she used to steal from her stepfather when she'd fall asleep on the couch as a kid. It still smelled like him, a hint of cedarwood and ink. She wore it now not for warmth, but because her stomach couldn't handle the idea of picking something else. The elevator pinged. Someone exited. 2 interns passed by laughing. She sat motionless. Finally, the inner door opened. He stood there. Same posture as always. Calm. Not cold, just unreadable. The way powerful people get when they've mastered silence as a strategy. She rose instantly. "Can I?" Her voice cracked. "Can I talk to you?" He nodded once. Turned. Walked back inside. She followed. The office was just as she remembered. Minimalist. Bookshelves lined with obscure biographies, a sculpture she once teased him about. Abstract metal anxiety, she'd called it. He had laughed then. He didn't now. He sat behind the desk, fingers steepled, not saying a word. She stood across from him, uninvited to sit. Her voice wavered. "I didn't mean it." He looked at her. Not with hatred, not even disappointment, just a kind of profound, tired quiet. Then he looked back at his screen. She tried again. I was trying to be funny. You know? Like a roast. I didn't think it would go that far. Still nothing. Why didn't you say something earlier? She whispered. Why didn't you stop me? He looked up slowly, and this time, his eyes met hers without hesitation. Would you have listened? Silence. The kind that rips through a person like paper tearing. Her breath caught. She shook her head. I thought you were just quiet because that's who you are. No, he said. I was quiet because I thought you'd learn. I thought silence would teach you what applause never could. She blinked fast. So you did do this. All of it. Hudson. The mentoring accounts. The blacklist rumors. He didn't answer that. He didn't need to. From the door, her mother's voice entered like static. Please, she said. She's just a kid. You're punishing her for one mistake. Don't you think this is too far? He stood slowly, walked past the desk, past Claire, stopped just short of her mother. Then he turned around and faced them both. I paid for her education, he said, voice measured, deliberate. That was the deal. No one forced me. I chose to. I never asked for gratitude. I never expected love. But I expected decency. He looked at Claire again. I wasn't raising a daughter. I was investing in a future, a legacy. And when the moment came for you to speak, what you gave the world wasn't a joke. It was your final report card. She shook her head, tears threatening now. But people can change, right? He nodded. Yes, and they usually do, after the fall. A long pause. Her mother spoke again, softer. If you're done proving your point, maybe now we can all move forward. He tilted his head. No. Claire stepped forward. What do you want from me? He looked at her with something resembling sorrow. But not for her, for the waste. For the potential she burned in 10 seconds of applause. I don't want anything, he said. He turned, opened the door, held it for them. Take care of yourself, Claire. And that was it. Not a scream, not a lecture, just the closing of a door behind them. A door heavier than any courtroom verdict. Outside, the city buzzed with life. But Claire had never felt smaller. It was her third interview that month. A boutique consulting firm in Chicago, smaller than Hudson, but reputable, fast-growing, and hungry for young talent. The kind of place where rebranding yourself was still possible. Where second chances might slip through the cracks if you smiled the right way and dropped the right buzzwords. Claire had been rehearsing for days. New resume. Adjusted timeline. No mention of Hudson. She even wore her hair differently. Neutral blouse, navy blazer, no accessories. Clean, competent, forgettable. Just what she needed to blend in, restart, and rebuild. The interview went fine. Great, even. She connected with the recruiter, Melissa, talked through her academic background, her campus initiatives, the consulting club. Claire even cracked a joke. Melissa laughed. She could see it in the woman's eyes. This might be a yes. Then came the line. One last thing before we wrap, Melissa said, smiling as she flipped through a folder. We noticed something odd in your file. You were listed as a Hudson Insight selectee, and then withdrawn. Claire's mouth went dry. We tried to verify the reason, just part of due diligence. But there's a notation from the board, and then a referral flag from. She squinted at the line. Founder, HI Holdings. Claire's breath stopped. Melissa waited. Can you explain? Claire tried to speak. Nothing came out. She cleared her throat. It was a miscommunication. A misunderstanding. Melissa's eyes softened. We're not judging, Claire. But when a founder formally revokes a recommendation, we do have to note that in your file. Claire nodded slowly. I understand. The conversation ended politely. Melissa smiled. Said, we'll be in touch. But the smile was different now. Polished. Formal. Checked out. Claire stepped into the elevator. Pressed the ground floor button. She knew. She walked out into the cold. Didn't cry. Not there. Not on Michigan Avenue. She made it back to the train, her fingers shaking as she checked her phone obsessively. Nothing from the recruiter. Nothing from the school placement office. Nothing from anyone. That night, she got home late. Her mother was in the kitchen, swirling wine in a glass like it was medicine. The mail sat in a neat pile on the table. One envelope stood out. Cream paper. Heavy. No return address. Claire opened it. Inside was a single sheet. Plain typeface. Perfect spacing. To whom it may concern, I cannot recommend this candidate for any position requiring judgment, gratitude, or discretion. Founder, HI Holdings. Her knees buckled. She dropped into the chair, letter trembling in her hands. Her mother turned. What is it? Claire held up the paper without a word. Her mother read it. Once. Then again. She didn't speak. Didn't scream. Didn't throw anything. She just stared at the letter as if it might burn through her hands. Because now she understood what her daughter didn't, what neither of them saw coming. He hadn't shouted. He hadn't retaliated. He had simply made sure the world saw what he saw. Clearly, permanently. Claire sat at the table for over an hour, the letter beside her, untouched. Her hands curled into fists, then flattened out again. A slow panic built, not the loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet realization that some bridges don't burn. Some are dismantled, brick by brick, every plank removed, every nail extracted, until you stand where a road used to be, and there's nothing but empty space. No one to call, no ladder down, just the echo of your own voice in the void you helped create. And the memory of the man who paid your way, sat in your audience, and left not with anger, but with a pen and a final word that no one could unhear.